All right. So another thing, the other big thing that's bothering us these days is this freaking COVID-19 coronavirus. That's just like, we thought we were about, oh yeah, we about to get back on the streets again. And then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, not today. How about there was like 10,000 positive cases in Florida. Then it was 9,000, 11,000. And, Miami-Dade County decided like, okay, we're going to close these bars. We're about to, they closed the beach and they're like, yeah, the restaurants, y'all better have takeout. You can't sit back down. Right. So the reason why I asked you this is because, people still get arrested. There's still like a whole jail population. Again, I do more on the immigration side, so I'm having a different experience in terms of getting people released. Police officers are still arresting folks. They're still charging them with crimes. If you were the state attorney right now, if you win and become the state attorney in January, and COVID is still as big a problem as it is then as it is today, would you look at the jail population and see if there's anything you could do to kind of reduce the numbers of people that are in the jail to kind of make sure people aren't getting infected and to protect the staff and the inmates that are in the jail that just have pending charges?
I'm going to answer your question, but I want to ask you a quick question. What has been your experience with immigration any immigration?
So immigration, they're not, even though there was a federal judge that said that they're supposed to release some individuals from detention, particularly ones that have like no violent crimes or anything like that. They're like, nope. We send in the information, the parole request, everything, and they're like, nope. They don't want to let them out. And even some of the judges, I had a bond hearing for a young man. I had two of them. One of them had a different judge. He was released on a $5,000 bond. The other one, the judge was like, nope. And I'm like, I'm going to file an appeal. What are you doing? He was like, I don't care. We can't even go forward on the case because they can't have people in the same room. Because of coronavirus. So the guy's on one phone in one room, the attorney for the government is on the phone in another room, the judge is on the phone somewhere. They're not letting me in the building, so I'm either on the phone at home or at the phone in my office. It's pure insanity. How are you gonna have a case like that, right? We can't even go forward, but at the same time the government is spending money every day for this guy to be detained when all they should do is just put a bond amount on him, let him get released, and then whenever he can go to court on a non-detained docket. He doesn't have any he's not a convicted felon or anything like that. He just entered the country without the proper documents. That's the only thing that's going on, but we can't get him released, and he's been detained since January. So imagine that.
So I'm gonna answer your question directly. Yes, the population is going to be lower. I've said this since the beginning. I saw this coming from a mile away. You can check my Instagram, you can check Facebook, you can check tweets, you can check radio interviews, any of this stuff. Since the beginning, I wrote an article about this in Legacy magazine 2 months ago. COVID-19, literally, and hopefully there'll be an op-ed coming out soon, and I'll let you, Sandra, you're gonna be one of the first folks to know about this. But within that op-ed, we're going to talk about COVID-19 specifically, because the problem is, specifically in Broward County, I don't want to talk globally, I'll talk Broward County, because we have big issues globally as well. In Broward, we've been under a consent decree for 40 years, okay? That consent decree started back in the 70s, essentially 2 years after Mike Satz became state attorney, and it was the Carruthers case. The Carruthers case basically were inmates who sued Broward County and the sheriff for civil rights violations. They were legitimate civil rights violations. A judge found it to be so. Now they had to basically fix the jails, build new jails, and all that stuff. In 2018, 2017, the government came to an agreement, which is what happens in consent decrees. The government came to an agreement with the plaintiffs, and they basically said, look, we got these new jails, the conditions are better, and we decreased our population to, I believe it was 76, 74%. All right, COVID hits. I see it coming from a mile away. I talk about it everywhere. I go to magistrate court. The Conti facility, which is in Pompano, had 90% occupancy. The main jail had over 80% occupancy. North, what we call North, which is the jail, the northern portion of Broward County, had over 80% occupancy. we were nowhere near that 74, 76% occupancy. We worked our way down closer, but we are nowhere near having the amount, a tenable amount of people in custody where people wouldn't get sick. What you're seeing on the news, some of those things are legitimate. What we just found out the other day while I was on a Zoom call is that if you are set for a plea or a status and somebody in a defense attorney wants to bring you down so you can be on a video, like you said, one person on call here, one person on call here. That's what happens. One person's on video call, the attorney's on video call, state attorney's on a video call, judge's on a different video call. We all come together. And like you said, it's crazy. But if you've either been exposed to or you have COVID-19, if someone in your cell has it, they quarantine everybody, period, point blank. And what they don't do, they don't tell their defense attorney. So the defense attorney never knows. Now, they don't have an opportunity to make a phone call because they're quarantined, to be on a video because they're quarantined, and the jail is not letting you know that they're quarantined. So now we don't even know who's been quarantined. And this has been the problem with law enforcement, period. We're talking about the state attorney's office, prosecutor's office, and law enforcement. Lack of transparency. That has been the problem. So under my administration, yes, there will be transparency, and we will work to lower the amount of folks that are in custody. But I do want to give a big shout out to the state attorneys that were working on the ground at the beginning of this thing. We're working to cut down the amount of folks in jail. And what I would never do, and I learned this back when I owned a business, I'm never going to just blame the folks on the ground. You cannot blame the folks on the ground for doing that everyday hand-to-hand work to fix the system. It's the higher ups, it's the management, it's the folks up here who don't set the policies in the appropriate way to fix the issues that come through. But the people on the ground that were working very hard, some of the supervisors, some of the lead prosecutors, including myself, that were offering themselves for service, our magistrate, ASA, they were doing a great job helping to let folks out. And we weren't arresting a lot of people at that time. But as you indicated, arrests are going to go up, especially if COVID-19 continues. More people are not going to have jobs. They're going to have more time on their hands, and the arrests are going to go up.
It's tough out here, but I'm gonna have to tell you that I actually, because I also follow the BSO races and a lot of the other races too. So I was listening to one of the sheriff panels, and the person who, and I believe it was a person who is presently running the sheriff's office right now, said something about the jail population is down to 60-something%.
Jail populations fluctuate every day.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay. All right. So COVID is definitely something that's going to be a part of our lives. We're going to have to, we're going to have to work this into how people are arrested, how our cases go moving forward. How are these, because there's another thing about like how you're going to do these criminal trials, right? The civil side of it has been good in that they are able to do a lot of their cases via Zoom, because I actually had a family case that, I did a divorce. We did it over Zoom. It was kind of funny because, I have like clients that are not very, technologically savvy, but we actually made it through the hearing and it worked. And I can see judges wanting to keep it that way, right? Particularly since we're dealing with something so insidious as COVID. But on the criminal side, how are you going to have trials? Like, what are you going to do? Just schedule everybody for 2022? I mean, you're going to then leave them detained? I mean, some of these folks, even if they got convicted, they wouldn't be in, in jail or in prison or wherever for that long. So what is this?
There are practical concerns not only for the prosecutor. It's important to know where your power ends and your power begins. Clearly, the state attorney has not used his power to its fullest extent throughout his tenure. However, there is an end to what we can do. So the Broward County State Attorney does not control the courthouse. The clerk's office and the county manager and all these other entities, they work directly with the courthouse. That's why every time the chief judge speaks, goes out and speaks, He has the clerk with him, and he has the county manager, and he says, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for allowing us to use these spaces, because he doesn't control any of that. And neither does the state attorney. What you're saying is we're going to need to expand it. Like, practically what would need to happen is that we would either need to expand our jury pools. We would need to have social distancing. They would need to be on daily rotations.
Everybody need a hazmat suit. I mean, there was an attorney that went into federal court the other day with a hazmat suit on, and the people were like, I don't blame you, bro. I would do it too.
It all happens in South Florida, but people do not know what's going to happen. We got a president saying that we're going to be living with this thing. You got Dr. Fauci saying one thing. You got the two people fighting. You got the county saying something, the manager saying something, the governor saying something else. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. It's not a wait and see. We do need leadership in these times, and what you're talking about is leadership. I do believe when it comes to statuses, the status portion and the plea portion has been working out on the criminal side. A lot of defense attorneys like that they don't have to get up and just leave their office. They can do relatively small status hearings at their office and at their desk. Prosecutors like it too, not because we can sit at home and do whatever we got to do, but because it shows that we're progressing in this system that we have. We have a brand new courthouse. We have the newest courthouse in the state of Florida at Broward County. Let's utilize the technology that is flowing through the walls and ground and veins of this courthouse to our advantage, so we can show people really what we can do. So I don't think it's a bad thing that we are doing virtual things, but we need to know where that ends, and we need to prepare for the inevitability of going to trial. You can't continue to have people pending cases walking the street. You can't continue to have people pending cases sitting in jail. We're talking about murderers, sexual batterers, violent offenders who are still in jail. Some may be innocent, some may not be innocent, but they have their day in court, due process. So we can't hold it up indefinitely.
Yes, that's definitely something that, and we don't know, right? And someone needs to know. Like you said, it's definitely something for leadership. The clerk office has to figure that out. I mean, everybody has to figure this out, right? I mean, I don't know. Do you know if they're holding meetings to talk about what it is they're going to do? Because I would hate to be someone who thinks I'm innocent, who believes that they're innocent, and they're sitting in a county jail, without a bond, because they can't figure out how to schedule my trial, right? That just seems kind of wild.
Well, let me give you an example, because we just dealt with this case the other day. And we pled it out. Somebody, first-time offender, they committed aggravated assault, all right? They do not score prison. We would typically give them probation. There were some concerns of competency. There were some concerns that there was some substance abuse, a bunch of other different things. Traditionally, what we would do is say, hey, we want to get them evaluated. We want to send them to mental health court or substance abuse court. But what we know is evaluations aren't really happening right now, especially with the public defender's office, because there's all sorts of litigation pending. But then also you can't stick them in mental health court or stick them in drug court, because those mechanisms aren't working. But you've been in jail for over 200 days. So when is enough when you're a first-time offender? Let's plead the case out immediately. Why are they still in custody?
Right.
Do we want to get them help? Absolutely. However, this is not the time to play with these people's life. Really, it's not the time to play with their life, because at this point they're missing out on employment opportunities, if there were any. They're missing out on their family. Their bills probably are piling up. If they had an apartment or a house, they probably lost it at this point. If they had a car note, they probably got the car repoed. Your life has been turned upside down by being in custody for 200 plus days, and your case is pending, and you're a first-time offender.
Yeah. Sorry for those people that got arrested on March 17th, right? It was just like, I mean, it's just, it's not funny, but it's just like, you just don't know. It's too much. It's really, really too much. And again, you can't, like, if someone really did something wrong, you don't want them to get a pass and benefit from the fact that, coronavirus is out here, right? The punishment should be punished, right? But at the same time, if they're you know, if they believe they're innocent, it's unfortunate that they're going to have to sit for who knows how long in order for them to prove their innocence. So, you know,
Sandra, it goes back to your other question, what you're talking about, the jail population. And I'm going to give you a fuller answer than 64%. It fluctuates every day.
I said
It
60
does.
something.
It does fluctuate
I
every
didn't say
day.
64.
Right.
I just said 60 something percent. It might have been 69. I don't know.
Whether it was 61, 60, or 69, the jail population fluctuates every day based on arrest, okay, and based on retaining folks. So many people fall through the cracks. So many, because the public defender's office is understaffed. The state attorney's office is understaffed. The BSO is understaffed.
I heard that today too. They got like 250 positions they need to fill.
Probation officers are understaffed. We're talking about DOC. Everybody is understaffed, okay? So you're talking about people falling through the cracks, and if they're not hollering about what's going on and making a fuss about it, sometimes they won't get addressed. Then you got people that you release that you think, oh, this is a first-time offender, or this isn't such a bad case, but you didn't look into the case more. That's why I always talk about prosecuting the case, not persecuting the individual. You have to do that. When you prosecute the case, all right, you understand the case facts, understanding the facts, not just the charge. Because you could see a really, really bad charge, aggravated assault with a firearm. You could see a kidnapping. That's a horrible charge. What are the facts of it? What are the facts of it?
Yeah, no, because I had a client that was charged with kidnapping. I had a client that was charged with kidnapping, and it was like, was that really a kidnapping? No, you know, but he moved the car with his girlfriend in it, so that's a kidnapping, right? That's a kidnapping charge, even though it doesn't.
There's a charge. We're gonna get a little nerdy for a second. There's a charge called burglary battery. All right, it's called a burg bat, is what we call it. It's first degree felony, up to 30 years in prison. Okay, depending on what your record is, it could be life in prison as well. Okay. It's a possibility of life case. We call it a PBL. All right. I have seen, like, and you're from Miami, all right, but you live up here in Broward. We have seen some things in our life.
Yes.
Like you're leaving the spot. It's late at night. Some people are arguing. You're driving away because somebody's cussing at you, driving away. They reach their hand into a car, punch the guy in the face. That is considered a burglary battery.
Okay.
If they have outside of the car, that's a regular battery.
Yes.
Inside the car, that's a burglary battery. It's a first degree felony.
Yes. Okay. No, and I have to tell you, I have that scenario. So I had a couple. This guy was in immigration court, and ultimately he did get deported. And what happened was he's arguing with his wife, right? And she's upset, and she tries to drive off, and he doesn't want her to drive off mad. He sticks his hand in the car to get the keys from her, and he got charged with burglary of an occupied structure. You know what I mean? And it was crazy.
And burglary of occupied structure, that's a second degree felony. So there are facts that break. That's 15 years in prison max. Okay. And when I go talk to kids, I tell them things all the time. What I say is, look, you got to be educated. You got to know what's going on. I've been doing this for years, and I ask a couple of questions. But when I take them through a scenario, I always say, all right, you steal 5 shirts from Walmart, 10 shirts from Walmart. What did you do? I stole. It's a theft, right? Yeah. What kind of theft? It's not that big a deal. So a petty theft, right? Yeah. Okay. Petty theft maximum is 1 year probation or 3 year in jail. Okay, but you're probably not going to get that. Okay, yeah, okay. All right. So let's say you go to Polo and you steal 10 shirts, or you go to Louis Vuitton and steal 10 shirts.
Oh, you don't need to steal 10. You just need to steal 1 out of Louis.
Hey, what's that? Well, that's a theft too. All right. Saying, yeah, it's nothing big a deal. No, that's a third degree felony. A third degree felony gives you a maximum of 5 years in prison, $5,000 fine, and we can give you 5 years of probation. Oh my God. These are middle school and high school kids, like, oh man. And like, all right, so let's switch it up. So now, I'm sorry about that. So now we have somebody that steals it from another person, steals it off their back. What is that? Well, that's a robbery. Okay, robbery, second degree felony. Then we just go higher. Now he has it with a knife. And now he has this. Like, these crimes build when you do certain things. And if you don't know the facts, if you're not prosecuting the case and not persecuting the individual, then you are harming, you have the potential to harm the individual more than the justice that you are getting done, the equitable justice. So when we talk about the jail releasing people, we say, oh no, that's a robbery. Oh no, that's a burglary. Oh no, that's a bad burglary. That's an aggravated battery. Well, have you looked at the facts of the case? It's going to take a little more time than I want to. I want to identify 150, 200 people that we can quickly release because, we got to get the jail numbers down. That's not how this is done. That is not how this is done. You need to have the facts of the case, but once you train prosecutors to do it on the front end, when you have a pandemic like this, we don't need to do it on the back end. Like I'm sure your mom always said, and my mom always said, you get ready on the front end, or you be prepared. So when the opportunity comes, you can take the bull by its horns or whatever it is. Be prepared. And we weren't prepared. And many state attorneys' offices weren't.